If you feel like this when you're at the club, then it's probably time that you change up your fragrance or try a different fragrance style. You're in luck because that's the subject of today's video. My top 10 clubbing fragrances for men 2022. In fact, when we return, I'll have that and more coming your way, so stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. Tommy with Studio Sense here. Super happy that you stopped by today because whether you want to call it clubbing or scoping out your zip code or looking for your significant other, we're just hanging out with friends. Going out, dancing, partying, talking to other people, to meet people has been an activity that weekends were made for decades. So if you find yourself getting a little bit bored or feeling it's a bit stale or generic in terms of the fragrance that you wear, because let's face it, fragrance is part of the game. It's an accoutrement. It's something that you add to how you put yourself together. A really good fragrance has been described as a wingman because it allows you to put forth some of that positive charisma that you want to exude to someone that you might be interested in, or just to your friends to have a good time. So today I'm taking a look at 10 fragrances that I think are the best fragrances for clubbing. Now, this is a top 10 list, so in typical top 10 tradition, I'm going to start with the 10, and we're going to work our way down to the top 5, the top 3, and finally the number 1 clubbing fragrance in 2022. Coming in at number 10 is a fragrance that might surprise you because you might think, well, this really deserves a spot higher up. I would tend to agree, but there's a lot of competition. It's a Hugo Boss fragrance, and it's relatively new to the scene. It is Hugo Boss the Scent Le Parfum. There's a literal ton of coupling possibilities written into the DNA. Of course, it has the scent DNA with that manica fruit said to be an aphrodisiac. It also has a good bit of leather and precious woods, and of course the iris note. The iris note is relatively short-lived in this fragrance, or it might take a higher spot, but it's an epic clubbing scent, and that's why it comes in as my number 10. Hugo Boss the Scent Le Parfum. Coming in at number 9 is what I consider a happy surprise in the Carolina Herrera, otherwise somewhat generic fragrance line, and it's not a bad fragrance line. Bad Boy happens to have one of the coolest presentations of a fragrance for men, the Lightning Bolt, but Bad Boy Cobalt happens to have a fantastic profile, wonderful blue scent for men. What makes Bad Boy Cobalt so unique is it brings back truffle as a seductive note. You've got likely black truffle, you've got black plum, and a good bit of woods, and dose in that peppery DNA that is Bad Boy, and you have Bad Boy Cobalt. One of the most creative, unique blue scents to come out of 2022. That's why it's coming in at number 9, Bad Boy Cobalt by Carolina Herrera. Coming in at number 8 is a fragrance that you would expect to probably take a higher spot, but because it's been out for a little while, it has been usurped. It's been kicked off the throne, so to speak, or at least a higher position by other fragrances. It is a Paco Rabanne fragrance. It is 1 Million Parfum. It's one of those you either love it or you hate it. You either think it smells like an industrial cleaner or like something great. It doesn't really matter to 1 Million Parfum how you view it though, because it is loud and proud. It's a combination of cashmere, leather, labdanum, tuberose, and ambroxan in a modern formula that really is an attention seeker. Not only does it get people to turn their heads, but it also pulls compliments as well. Whether you love it or hate it, you cannot deny the effectiveness of 1 Million Parfum by Paco Rabanne. And that's why it comes in as my number 8 clubbing fragrance. Coming in at number 7 is probably going to be a surprise because you might think it would take a higher spot, but it is a Jean-Paul Gaultier fragrance, very well known in the clubbing circuit, Ultramall. Ultramall used to be the number 1 clubbing fragrance for several years running because it just has that ultimate bubblegum sweet and sexy vibe. It's got pear, it's got mint, lavender, vanilla, amber, and woods in an amazing, complex yet simple scent DNA that most people still consider a standard. And I have to admit, I still grab for this more frequently than you might imagine. And that's why it's coming in at number 7 in my best clubbing fragrances 2022, Jean-Paul Gaultier's Ultramall. You can also substitute Ultramall for another flanker of La Mall, but this is the best. We are almost down to my top 5, so coming in at number 6 is a fragrance that, again, similar to Ultramall, you might think that it would take a higher spot. In many years running, it certainly did. It is a Versace fragrance, Versace Eros. but this is the Parfum version. The absolute best version of Versace Eros DNA existing today is in the Parfum version. Although the Eau de Parfum is extremely well done, you can't beat the Parfum version. Once upon a time, this was the ultimate clubbing king for several years running, but nowadays it feels like everybody's wearing it so that when you step up on the dance floor, it's like, let me make you right? Everybody's doing the same move. Everybody smells the same because they're wearing Versace Eros or some version of it. Still though, it's a fantastic, unique fragrance that is an attention getter and a compliment puller. But I think it's high time that Eros allows some new blood to take the throne. This one has lemon, lavender, elemi, benzoin, and that ever-present vanilla to make up its composition, and is an amazing fragrance that's still sexy and ready. Versace Eros Parfum, and that's why it takes the number 6 spot. All right, guys, we're down to my top 5 best clubbing fragrances 2022. Coming in at number 5 is a fragrance that is supremely well known. And again, just like most of these, you think it deserves a higher spot. All of these kind of deserve the limelight at one time or another. There's lots of new fragrances being produced, and this list will likely change 6 months from now. But right now, coming in at number 5 is a fragrance by Yves Saint Laurent. It is none other than the very lively Y Eau de Parfum. The reason why Eau de Parfum is taking number 5 over like Y Live or Y Le Parfum is because it's a bit more playful and a bit more fruity centric than is the Y Le Parfum. Y Le Parfum is a bit more mature. It's almost like my clubbing days are over, right? Instead of they're ahead of me or they're right now, which is the literal playfulness of Y the Eau de Parfum. Of course, the fragrance is similar to Eros, getting very well known, but I don't think it's overdone just yet. It's still very fresh. It's ginger, apple, sage, amber, frankincense, all rolled into an extremely, again, lightly fruity, lightly playful, masculine fragrance that is perfect for the clubbing scene. And that's why it takes my number 5 spot, Yves Saint Laurent Y Eau de Parfum. Some eyebrows are likely gonna raise when I reveal my number 4 fragrance that I consider the best clubbing fragrance, but I just couldn't help but to add it because it has so many facets that are perfect for the clubbing scene or the social get-together scene. It's a fragrance by Emporio Armani that you likely already know very well. It is Stronger With You Absolutely. This is absolutely the pinnacle of, even considering the new flanker Stronger With You Oud, the pinnacle, the height, the very height of the Stronger With You DNA. You know a flanker is effective when it goes outside of the bounds, it colors outside the lines. It's not just a cold weather gourmand fragrance, right? It's not impossible to use a gourmand fragrance as a clubbing fragrance or as a social lubrication kind of get-together fragrance. I'll use a very elegantly simple analogy. When you spray this on, what's the first thing that you want to do? You want to smell it, right? What do you think other people are going to want to do when they smell this on you? Walk away from it? No, they're going to want to come closer. They want to smell more. That's exactly the kind of situation that you want when you're going out to meet people. You want people to come closer, not farther away from you, and that's exactly what, very simply, what Stronger With You Absolutely is going to do. Like the nightlife itself, Stronger With You Absolutely is dark, it's mysterious, it's enticing, it's exciting, and lasts as long as you do. It's got rum in it, so it's boozy, it's sweet, it's got elemi resin, so it's resinous, it's got vanilla, chestnuts. What can you say about a fragrance that says it all itself without having to say anything? Not much, except wearer beware, be careful what you wish for. This fragrance is full of promise. And that's why it comes in as my number 4 clubbing fragrance 2022. All right, everyone, we are down to my top 3 fragrances that I consider the best clubbing fragrance 2022, if not of all time, in the designer arena anyway. I'm more and more pleasantly surprised each time that I grab for it. Again, it's like a lot of these, it's relatively new to the scene. It is a Givenchy fragrance. It is Gentleman Reserve Privé. Fantastic, boozy, seductive, warm and welcoming fragrance. It has everything that you would want in not only a date night fragrance, but a clubbing fragrance. It utilizes iris and whiskey together, which is a brilliant coupling, but it also makes use of chestnuts, just like Stronger With You Absolutely. It's got cedar, vetiver, patchouli. One of the best fragrances to come out of 2022, and arguably the sexiest of the Givenchy Gentleman lineup. And that's why Reserve Privé takes my number 3 spot of best clubbing fragrance 2022. Coming in at number 2 is a fragrance that I, for a short time, considered for the number 1 position, but it was kind of booted out by a newer fragrance. It's been in list before, and it was my #1 fragrance of new releases for 2022, Azzaro's The Most Wanted. Red ginger, woody notes, bourbon vanilla, already topping the charts, having been out a very short period of time. Back to basics with the scent DNA of this one, but who knew that basic could be so sexy and so self-assured? This is one fragrance that wants to be heard. See what I did there? Anybody? Again, it would be #1 if it were not for a newcomer to the scene, and that's why it comes in as my #2 best clubbing fragrance 2022, The Most Wanted Parfum by Azzaro. Alright guys, we are down to brass tacks. My #1 fragrance that I consider the best clubbing fragrance, at least so far. Here we are in August, we're almost to the end of the year, but I feel like Jean-Paul Gaultier's Scandal pour Homme Le Parfum is the best clubbing fragrance. The way I'm making it sound, I make it sound like it's just limited to fragrances that came out in 2022, but I meant up to 2022. The reason this one is #1 is because it took that scandalous DNA and it made it so much better. It's similar to the seductively light gourmand fragrance that is the original, except the rabbit hole just got deeper, darker, richer, and denser. Featuring notes of geranium, tonka bean, and sandalwood, extremely creamy yet accessible, extremely seductive, and lightly playful. By the way, yes, I know this is not the Le Parfum. This is the original. I literally had the Le Parfum for a day to do a first impressions, and then I let a friend borrow it who still has it. This is its stand-in temporarily for this particular segment. Just like the seductively mysterious black lacquered glass that houses the fragrance, this shows the serious side of Scandal, that it's not afraid of commitment, suggesting that the fragrance sillage itself suffers no performance anxiety. Well, that's it for my top 10 clubbing fragrances of 2022 Designer Edition. If you own any of these or have experience, let me know what your thoughts are, what your favorite is, and if I've missed one or two or more fragrances that should be in this list that are excellent clubbing fragrances, let me know what those are as well in the comments below. Thanks so much though for taking the time out and stopping by, checking out today's video. As always, thank you so much for your support on my channel. I'm Tommy with Studio Sense, and I'll see you tomorrow.